Hello and welcome to episode number 23 of No Whining. Let's get started tasting our first wine of the day. This is a 2020 Le Haut Lieu Demi-Sec Vouvray. This is a $45 or so bottle of wine coming from producer Domaine Huet, and the variety in this is Chenin Blanc. The region is Vouvray, which is in the larger region of Touraine in the Loire Valley. Now, next week, we are going to be tasting a Chenin from Savennières. And so this is and I want you to pay attention closely, right? Like to the differences between these, compare and contrast, because Savennières is a much warmer microclimate with rocky sandstone schist soils. Again, even maybe journal when you're tasting, right? Like that's a good idea anyhow, to make sure you're writing down what you taste so you can compare it against next week's. Vouvray, in contrast, is much cooler with limestone-rich clay soils, and it tends to produce lighter-bodied wines with fresher fruit flavors. And there are three main styles here. So you've got sec, which is dry, you've got demi-sec, which is off-dry, and then you have doux, which is sweet. Now, this particular Vouvray that we're tasting today is an off-dry or demi-sec with about 19 grams per liter of residual sugar. Again, I think soda is something like 120 grams per liter. So this is not a lot, but just a little bit, and you'll probably notice that on the palate. So it's, again, likely to be a little bit fuller bodied than typical dry Vouvrays, because when you have sugar in the mix, it tends to contribute to body, or having a rounder mouthfeel, if you will. Some information from the tech sheet, which says, by any reckoning, these rank among the greatest vineyard sites in the Loire Valley. The estate was one of the first in France to adopt biodynamic viticulture. Harvest is by hand and occurs over 2 to 3 successive passes. It takes a lot of work to do that. It's not just one vineyard pass, right? Like these being handpicked. It's not a machine just going through. These are people going through making multiple passes. So they get the grapes at exactly the right ripeness, which is stinking fantastic. All right. It says alcoholic fermentation proceeds naturally with indigenous yeasts. Malolactic fermentation is neither encouraged nor discouraged. Interesting. After primary fermentation, the wines are racked into old barrels where they spend the winter before bottling in April. Okay, let's get into wine numero uno. Okay, this wine is clear. It looks to be a medium gold color with a decent amount of viscosity, which again, what you see on the sides of the glass, right? When you see those tears and you see those falling down, sometimes they're referred to as legs. That is related to the alcohol content. So higher alcohol, the legs are going to tend to be thicker, right? There's going to be more of them. They're going to be much thicker, more viscous, right? So like the fluid doesn't just run right down the side of the glass like it would with a thin liquid. It's a little bit thicker. And the other thing that contributes to that is sweetness. So any sugar is going to, and that just makes sense logically, right? That is going to contribute to a fuller body, and it's going to have a little bit higher viscosity. So that's what you're going to see. Alrighty, let's give it to the schnoz for a look. All right, medium intensity on the nose. It's got some aromas of quince, apricot. It's got a little bit of mango in here. Let's dip back in for another shot at it. Something else that's coming through on this wine, for me at least, is like this honeyed aroma. Definitely something of a honey quality. There's also some minerality here. This is an old world wine. Again, old world is anything that's basically in Europe, and that makes sense because there's the predominance of mineral either driven wines, or you're going to have that characteristic type of a note in the wines themselves. That could be like a petrichor aroma, that can be wet stone, something that is mineral in nature. It could be slate. So that's the second glance. Let's go in one more time. All right, I'm picking up some ginger here, just a little bit, and getting some pineapple as well. So it's interesting to have a little bit of even a tropical fruit aroma coming through. Let's give it to the jaws. That is fairly delicious. I'm definitely getting some lemon on that, actually, on the palate. Apricot again. Got the honey piece, got the mango coming through. The minerals are still there for sure. The pineapple again. And this wine is off dry, like we talked about earlier, 19 grams of residual sugar. The body on it is medium. The acidity is pretty darn high. I would definitely say high acidity. That is very, very typical of a Chenin Blanc. And then the alcohol is like medium plus, like on the plus side, probably. Let us consult with the bottle. 13.5% alcohol by volume. This is a well-balanced wine with like medium plus intensity of flavors and complexity. Really nice and long too on the finish with really, really nice citrus flavors. The honey is still in there. I am liking this line a whole heck of a lot. I've never had a Chenin Blanc from Huet before, so I am very satisfied. I'm a happy camper. So let's call it a win for wine number one and go into our second for the day. This is a 2021 Ball Buster. Now, tell me that isn't a fantastic name for a wine. And if you read the back of the bottle, you get the impression that this wine, that she is big and mean. So I cannot wait to get into this $20 to $25 bottle of wine. It sounds like it's going to pack a punch. We shall see. The producer on this is Tait. And the varieties are 86% Shiraz, 9%, and Shiraz again is Australia's Syrah, right? Like it's kind of their flagship, but it's the same grape variety. All right, it's 9% Cabernet Sauvignon and 5% Merlot. The region is Barossa Valley in South Australia. Now this is the region, right, for classic full-bodied Shiraz. It's really, really hot here, so the grapes get really ripe. You've got big flavors, big body that you can expect, and these ball-busting bad boys are quite age-worthy. A lot of the wines from here are coming from really, really old vines. I think this is like the only place that actually has a classification system for its old vines, if that tells you something. From the Tait website, here's some information. The grapes that make up the Ball Buster blend are sourced from different vineyard locations throughout the Barossa. Vineyard sites are chosen to ensure that the resultant fruit is intense and that cropping levels do not exceed 3.5 tons an acre. Right, so they're trying to keep the yield, the planting and the yields low so that they get good concentration, really, really high quality. Typically, these are clay soils on the fringes of the Barossa. Each vineyard site is visited twice a week during the maturing season to ensure that the fruit is maturing slowly. And you want it to mature slowly, because if the fruit matures too quickly, it's gonna mess with everything. If you think about when you are cooking something, especially if you're cooking like either a dish or like chicken or beef or something like that, in order to have it be as delicious as possible, you want to cook it slowly. If you cook it really quickly, it'll be crispy on the outside, but the inside's kind of like goopy and gross. And it's sort of the same thing happens when grapes are cooked, so to speak. All right. So we pass through twice a week during the maturing season to ensure that the fruit is maturing slowly and the water is only applied when necessary. Picking is only done when the grapes are physiologically ripe. All right, well, I can't wait to give this Ball Buster a shot. She sounds like a big old broad with an attitude. All right, that's a little bit of a movie reference from one of the greatest movies ever made, The Other Guys. If you haven't seen it, you probably should. If you have seen it, congratulations, and you should probably watch it again. All right, here we go. All right, look at this nice deep purple color. Medium plus on the viscosity here on the glass. Gonna get, yeah, you can see it starting a little bit of the staining of the tears. Let's give it to the schnoz. The first thing that's coming through it, this is a very fruit forward wine. which is pretty characteristic of New World wines. We talked about like Old Worlds from the last wine, which would be in Europe, and anything outside of that is considered New World. Very typically more fruit forward. It's not as mineral driven. So I'm getting a lot of like black fruit here, black cherry, blackberry, like baked plum, black currant even. Let's go back in for another look. I'm finding some strawberry on this, but what I'm finding a lot of is like the presence of oak aromas. So vanilla for sure, getting some tobacco out of this. There's like a little bit, I'm gonna check it again. Yeah, like a faint eucalyptus note with this. I'm also getting some licorice from it. Okay, that's quite a bit from just the schnoz alone. And you can see those tears, a little bit of staining. Let us take it to the jaws. Wow, that is a big freaking wine. That is a ball-busting wine if ever I have had one. Like vanilla's coming through real prominently. That really deep, juicy, like black fruit. The licorice. This is super full-bodied. It's dry. It doesn't have a bunch of residual sugar in it. It's like nice and dry, super high on the alcohol, probably 15%. It's the tannins and the acidity, I would say, are pretty moderate with this. At the end of the day, this is definitely a ball buster from down under. It has earned that title in my book. If you like really, really big wines that are fruit driven, have tons of flavor, really, really big, especially on the palate, this is going to be something that you probably like. If you like lighter bodied wines with more subtlety, with more finesse, this is probably not going to be your cup of tea. So this wine might be a little bit polarizing in that sense, but I'm curious how you feel about it at home. And if you like it, think a little bit about the specific constituents that lead you into the enjoyment of it, right? Like not just like, oh, that's yummy, because that's the place to start, right? Like, is the wine yummy? That is the number one criteria, right? But like, then why, what is it about this wine that I connect with, or that like, I just like, it's not resonating with me. Now, for me, I feel like this wine is lovely. It's like well balanced with pronounced flavors. I like that a lot. Medium plus complexity, a really long, delicious, like kind of those jammy fruit flavors. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. And in addition to the finish of the fruit, I'm also getting earth notes coming through, which is nice because it adds to the complexity and it kind of rounds the wine out. It doesn't just taste like, like fruit juice or something. That's not what wine is about. Now, a lot of wines taste that way. I feel like they've done a really nice job of making a big, bold, fruit-forward wine that like packs a punch, but it's got some other characteristics behind it, so it's not just a one-dimensional wine. So this is really, really nice in my opinion. Let's bring both of these in for the final rendering and verdict, which is hard for me. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go, like, I really love this Vouvray. I think it is just a great example of like a wine with a little bit of residual sugar that's off dry, super yummy, right? Like going back to that piece, but it's got nice complexity in it. It had good length. The flavors were really enjoyable. It had a good nose. I'm gonna go with the Barossa Valley Shiraz blend, however, because it's only $20. So the Vouvray, it's again coming from France, and a lot of times like you pay for that. Is it worth it? Yes, but at the same time, if I've got two wines that are anywhere close to each other and one of them costs less than half as much, I'm gonna probably give the nod to that one. So that's what I'm doing today, even though honestly I feel like both of these are evenly matched on the deliciousness scale. I hope you enjoyed both these wines and this episode, and I will see you for episode 24. We will be crowning our winners from our, we're into our third wine list. We're rounding that out. So I'm looking forward to that, and I will see you soon.